to have all of you here and with us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where this broadcast finds you. Looks like we've got a few more still trying to get connected here, so let's give them a chance, and we'll get started here in just a few moments. This is, as most of you may know, this is our third and final session in our three-part series honoring our Native veterans past, present, and future. And this session is going to focus really on family members of veterans, and we've got a wonderful panel assembled. And as I said, we're just waiting for a few more of the panelists to join us. And I'm looking to see who else we've got here. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get through. I've just got a few pieces of business, a couple of introductory slides to go through with all of you, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to Ray Daw, our moderator for today's event, and let the panelists introduce themselves. My name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the managers here at the American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. I manage the addictions portion of our center, and I have with me two colleagues. Cam Marcingill is here to assist us with any technical issues we may have. I've been known to break Zoom once in a while, so she's here to bail me out in case I do that. Cam, right? You'll vouch for me on that.
Yes.
Okay, and then I also have Dr. Allison Bass, and she is our prevention manager. She manages the prevention portion of our center. So she and I our departments are collaborating on this event, and we're just thrilled to have you all here. We've got some absolutely fantastic panelists assembled, family members of Native veterans. So let's go ahead and move through these slides, and then when we get to the panelist slides, including our moderator, Mr. Ray Daw. Mr. Ray Daw is also a senior consultant of ours at our center and sits on our advisory council. So Ray, we're always thrilled to have you with us, and always enjoy working with you. So thank you. So let's go ahead and move through our introductory slides before I turn the floor over. As many of you know, this event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We are located at the University of Iowa, and we are part of a larger national network made up of 10 regional centers, a national Hispanic and Latino center, as well as a national coordinating office at the University of Missouri. This project is funded and supported by SAMHSA. The content is developed by the presenter, and the opinions expressed today do not necessarily reflect the views of SAMHSA, HHS, or the National American Indian Alaska Native, ATTC. Following today's event, if there are slides, which there may not be content slides to share with all of you today, normally we would do that in a post-event email. We will reach out to all of you though post-event. You'll hear from us if you've registered for this event, and at that time there will be a recording available of this broadcast. And I don't know, Allison, are we providing CEUs for this event? I don't recall if we had decided on that or not.
Certificate of attendance for sure.
Okay, certificate of attendance. So you can request a certificate of attendance through the follow-up email. That's really the best way to do this, and it'll inform our staff that you're interested in receiving this certificate. We'll also have for you a link to a short survey in this follow-up email, and we will post in the chat today a link to that short survey. This survey is really important to our center. We value your feedback. The questionnaire is completely confidential and cannot be linked to you in any way. You can skip any questions you would like. We have added a couple of short answer questions to this questionnaire, which allows for us to really hear from you in your own words, giving us some direct feedback. So we would really appreciate hearing from you. It helps us improve the work that we're doing, and also ensures that we can do events like this in the future. So thank you so much for considering completing that short survey. I know we're gathered here virtually today, but we wanted to take a few moments to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a moment to read this land acknowledgement, which was created by 3 former members of our team, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Mr. Sean Bear, from the Meskwaki and Winnebago tribes, respectively. Thank you. Well, without further ado, I would like to remind everybody you are currently muted. If you can do so and remain muted until maybe you want to ask a question or you've been asked to speak, but just out of respect for the speakers, please remain muted. Use the chat box or hand raise feature if you'd like to interact with our panelists. And we're going to hopefully have a chance to open the floor and exchange some ideas and have a dialogue. So thank you again so much for joining us. Allison, did you want to say anything before we turn it over to Ray?
I see that I'm muted, but I want to just thank everybody in advance for jumping on whatever time you have to give to be a part of today's presentation. We're grateful for our presenters, our panelists, our moderator, and those of you who just want to sit here and learn and maybe share a part of your story too. Now it's
Okay, Ray, I'm going to turn the floor to you, and we'll get started. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go back to the land acknowledgement slide. And yeah, we would ask my brother Dan to begin our time together with a blessing. So we'll go ahead and do that, Dan. Can you open us up?
Almataki, Dan Foster here. Greetings, everyone, and we welcome you, and thank you, Ray. Thank you, Steve. Thank you all. That my wife Becky, my kids will be coming in and out. They're getting ready for school, so we're going to just offer a protection song. And this song says that no matter which way that we look, our relatives, the winds, the 4 directions, are there ahead of us, and they're there to be with us. Ate wiokpeata nawashielo wamayakayo. Ate otate yelo nawashielo ai ohai. Ate wasiatakia nawashielo wamayakayo. Ate otate yelo nawashielo ai ohai. Atewiahiambata Nawashielo Wamayo Ateo Tateyelo Nawashielo Ai oh ai Ate tokagata nawashielo wamayakayo. Ate otate yelo nawashielo ai ohai. Thank you, Ray, and thank you, relatives, for letting us share that song. Just closing is, often I hear our warriors, Akichita, as referenced as warriors, and I want to fine tune that a little bit. Is in our culture in Wolakota, we view it as protectors, which might well include being a warrior, but a protector is also a lover. A protector is also an advocate. A protector is also one who sacrifices. A protector also brings medicine. So I like the concept in English of protector. And I want to thank all of you warriors and thank all of you warrior family members. Thank you. Doksha.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dan, for beginning our sessions in a good way. And it's always a pleasure an honor and a pleasure to hear your songs and the kind words. Go ahead and go down to the next slide, Steve. The next one after this, because I've already seen that. We have a group of panelists that are joining us today from across Native country, and we're really honored to have, no, next one, to have our relatives with us. And we have with us Rosemary, Natsaway. Dave, you and your mom want to embellish or talk more about your bio?
Sure. This is the first time I've seen the bio. So so I grew up in Winslow. And I guess, you know, the way we ended up there was through the railroad. My grandparents and her dad worked for the railroad. And I don't know, I'll let her explain it.
Okay. Yes, I grew up in Winslow. My dad was a railroader there. He got the job because the Laguna Pueblo allowed the railroad to go across our reservation. So my dad was able to get a job because the contract was made that they hired Laguna men to build the railroad. And so I was there from the time I was 3 weeks old, and I'm still in Winslow, and I raised my family there, and that's how come they were in Winslow, went to school there and got their education and went on to college and got their degrees, and so I still remain there, but they went on their ways to do what they wanted to do. So that's how we ended up in Winslow.
Yeah, well, thank you for your story, Rosemary. Yeah, for that. We'll go ahead and move on to the next panelist, Steve. This is Rebecca's slide. Rebecca, tell us a little bit more about yourself as you read this.
Okay, well, how me talk, yes. My name is Rebecca Crawford Foster. I'm Blackfeet and Dakota. And I was born and raised on the Blackfeet Reservation in northern Montana. I went to college, as you can see. I got my doctorate in clinical psychology from Logan, Utah State University from Logan, Utah. But more importantly, I now and since 1992, have been a therapist in the Native communities, providing mental health services. And I come from a family of veterans. My father, my grandfather were both veterans, and a number of my cousins and my uncles are also veterans. So we grew up with the idea in our family that when called upon, that's what they did. They went and they served the country, and they provided protection for us. My younger brother was a medic in Iraq, and my husband was in the Army in Vietnam. And I didn't expect to be married to a veteran, but have learned so much from living with a veteran. And I know that families that are comprised of veterans and those that are wives, we have a little bit of a different sense of home. And that was given to us primarily from the experience and stuff that our husbands went through when they were in service. And so we've been together for about 30 years now, and we have 14 kids. And I'm just so honored and pleased to be a part of this panel today. So we can move on. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca, for your story and your introduction. I want to acknowledge that one of the young men I served with when I was in the Army military is from Blackfoot. He's no longer here with us anymore. He passed a few years ago, but he was a great man when I knew him, and has a really big place in my heart from the time I was in. So thank you. It's good to meet you again. Go ahead. Next, Denise, your turn to speak about yourself a little bit and introduce yourself.
Okay. Okay. Guatsi hopa, the watch juice in a ditch. Wa hinome, minute you eat. Wa shawich hano, it wa koyawashchi. Gaitoa naya, gaitoa sawich, it wa samak. And out of respect for my family that's on this, I just greeted everybody in our language. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My Indian name, Minatui, means salt woman. And I am of the Parrot clan, Shawich Hano, and the Bear clan, Koyawashchi. And I thank you very much for including me. I'm the oldest of 6 children, and David is right pretty much in the middle. And yes, we grew up in Winslow, and I think one of the things that my mother in her biography, and I have to apologize, I forgot to do the bios, and I did them real quick this morning, and she probably didn't even get to see what I wrote in her bio. I sent them to Steve at the last minute. But one of the things that I really want to emphasize on my mother's behalf is that when growing up in Winslow, she grew up in a military family. Even though my grandpa worked for the railroad, her 2 brothers, her 2 older brothers, were served in the military during the wartime. One of her brothers, my Uncle Ray, was stationed in Korea. He fought in the Korean War. And also her other brother, an older brother, my Uncle Barney, he was in the Air Force and he served time during Vietnam. And I think one of the things that my mom talked about a lot was how her mother, our grandmother, spent a lot of time in prayer, cultural type prayer, and also, in her Catholic faith, praying the rosary for the protection of her sons, and not knowing. And in those days, you waited months for a letter to come. There was no swift communication or anything. So she did witness that. And then later on, of course, married our dad, who was a veteran as well in the United States Army. And so she's had a lot of that type of experience around her. And then, of course, then our brother, her son, David, who served time in the military. Not only that, but his wife, my sister-in-law, Christine, is also a veteran. So it's just been a very wonderful experience with them. On our side, I don't, with them having to live away from family for such a long time and be apart, I know that it is a challenge. I mean, we could see it. And so, but we all stick together. We pray for one another and for everybody. And I know my dad was a very, very proud veteran. He continued by service in the American Legion, his membership in the American Legion, and also in the VFW here in Winslow. He belonged to both of those organizations and was very active in those activities. So it's good to be here today. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your excellent introduction to us, Denise, and beginning us with a really good story. Thank you much. Next one, Steve. We have a panelist from Alaska that we have been working with on joining us, but unfortunately, it appears like she and her husband, Jeff Couchy, are not able to join us today. Living in remote Alaska, the way the Couchys do, sometimes it's really difficult to get good connection out from a lot of places in Alaska. So I want to acknowledge that Shirley and her husband, Jeff, were identified to be panelists, and Jeff Couchy is a retired Army vet. So they might still pop in later, but I want to acknowledge that they are to be here also. But go ahead, next slide, please. Oh, we have a couple of Diné relatives here. Lucy, if you can hear me, you probably can't see your bio because I see you're on the phone. Want to introduce yourself a little bit more to us, Lucy?
Oh, yeah, so here. Sanjikin Islam, but I think Bashishim to a Hitling national Kabanda Shitley. My name is Lucy Laughter the Gay, and thank you for inviting me to the group. And just a really quick introduction of my clan. I'm of the Sanjikini clan, which is the plus welders, but Ani's my dad, who is under his cover clan. And currently I am working as a dialysis social worker. I've basically done social work probably most of my life after I've got out of college. But I am married to Robert Begay, Marine veteran. We've been, I think we've known each other over 30 years, but have been legally married for like 28 years, I think going on our 29th year. I grew up in what I thought was a traditional home because my parents both never had any Western education, both spoke only Navajo. And so that was my first language, and going through school was kind of a struggle for me. But surprisingly, my parents always emphasized finishing high school and going on and pursuing our college degrees. So I come from a family of our siblings. There was 10 of us, and sadly we lost a brother to COVID 2 years ago. So that's who I am. We have 5 kids. Robert and I have, I think both come from a large family, and I don't know if that's why we wanted a family as well, but it was, it didn't come easy. We had a hard time trying to start a family. And we got lucky or got blessed through the adoption services. We were also certified to be foster parents, which I learned wasn't for me. So I chose to go with the adoption. And so we've been blessed with 3 children through the adoption, and then 2 that we were able to conceive and have. So that's who I am, a mother of 5, and have been in the field of social work probably for maybe 20 plus years. Now here, being a dialysis social worker is quite new to me. I started my job here a little bit over 3 months ago. And it's been an interesting journey. But I guess traditionally we've continued to try to hang on to our teaching and our way of life and try to hand it on to our kids. I think with Rob knowing a little bit more, I learned more from him. Maybe I could have learned when I was growing up, but I really didn't pay attention to my parents at the time. And I regret that now. So that's who I am. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Lucy, go ahead. Here's Nelson, isn't it? And thank you, Lucy, for your story and introducing my Che Robert to you, to the rest of us. Like you, Robert has been a great teacher and mentor of mine. Love him very much. Yeah, Che, for joining us. Go ahead, next slide, please. And then we have Chelsea.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Chelsea. I am Laguna, Sistan, Wapatan, Dakota. I am a daughter of 2 veterans. My mom was a Marine, my dad's Navy. I was born into the military, and that was all I knew for 20 years before I went off to college and so forth. So I'm really excited to share a little bit about how I grew up and just my experiences.
Thank you for your introduction, Chelsea. I read that you're a trombonist also.
Yeah, so my parents were military bands, so I just so happened to pick up the same instrument that they did. Trombonist, and that's what I got my degree in. I got my degree in music education. I'm up here in Bremerton, Washington. I saw someone else was from a couple people up here in the chat were also from Washington. Just trying to spread music up here.
Okay. As a vocalist, are you a tenor or a soprano?
Alto.
Alto.
Or mezzo soprano.
Yeah, this way up there, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you for introducing yourself a little bit more, Chelsea, and yeah, thank you, Navajo, for
thank you for letting me be here.
You honor us. Go ahead, next slide. Well,
that concludes our panelist slides. I can put up the question slides next whenever you're ready. We have a polling question too, if you'd like to do that now, or
yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Why don't I see if I can do this? I'm going to launch this first poll here. This is just real straightforward question to our audience. So this is all confidential, so it cannot be identified in any way.
Hmm.
Oh, it's telling me it did this last time. It's saying I'm logged into another device. Huh. I had these poll questions all loaded up and ready, and it's not letting me.
Disappeared on you.
Well, I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can't reload those, Ray. Why don't I go ahead and get the polling or the questions up, and I'll see if
Yeah,
I
let's
can
get
get
the
that
question
first
up and
polling
get
question up.
Have the panelists.
Steve, it came up and I was able to answer it.
Oh, you were?
Yeah,
I don't see
I
it.
don't know. I don't know if you
It's
can see it on your side.
Yeah, it says I'm logged into another device, so my polling session is inactive. That's a new one on me.
I can't see the questions.
That's strange. Did anyone else, was any of the audience members able to see that polling question when it was up?
Yes.
Well, that's strange. Yes, I see clients giving me a thumbs up. Well, I'll work on that and see if I can't access
guess-
my own poll results. So I don't know what happened there, but
Mhm,
let me see if I can't resolve that. And in the meantime, Ray, why don't I go ahead and get up the questions for today?
Well, it appears like our participants are able to see the polling questions.
I know,
I don't.
I'd like
But,
to be able to see, what the results are. So let me work on that while I get put up these our
Yeah.
series of questions for our panelists. So
Right. Let's go ahead.
see if I can get that part done. I told you from time to time I do end up breaking the Zoom. So
And Lisa Huffman's very correct. It's never a true Zoom meeting without a tech issue of some kind.
that's right. That's
That's a
exactly right.
Profound statement, Lisa. Thank you.
Oh, it's so true. It really is. Just when you think you've got Zoom figured out, it throws you a curveball. That's
Mm.
how does this screen look, Cam? Does this look okay? We got a full screen there for everyone?
Looks good.
Great. Okay, well, Ray, I will on your prompt advance to that first question, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, my prompt.
Okay, here we go.
Well, we'll begin with this first question. This question is this is a panel made up of relatives of veterans. So the question basically begins: what have been your positive experiences as a family member to a Native veteran? And David, I'd like to ask your mom to be the first one to respond to that.
Go ahead. You're up.
What do I recognize?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
She has notes. Hold on.
Okay.
Yes, I had a brother that was in the army and he didn't enlist, he was drafted. And after he had 2 years, he went back in and became a Marine and was in the Korean War. And I had a brother that was in the Air Force, and he was mainly a welder and did the B-52 bombers at the time. And with my son here, I really felt that the positive things that came out of that was they became strong men to be able to go to the military and be there to help our country. But not only that, they had vocations that they have there that they learned and were able to come home and get a job in the field that they had learned to do. It's just a good, for men to get the discipline in there, which I felt molded them into a real strong person. They seem to change their attitude, the way they came out. It's just a blessing that they had more feelings towards people. They were more loving. And I just felt that this is a good field for the young people to think about becoming a military person. I just felt that it's good because they could retire and have that retirement, and then they also can go back to school and fulfill, maybe going back to college and getting a degree and use it further to be a leader in their community and help the young people that we really need. So these are the things that I looked at of how I felt that my family members did come home and do and work for the people and try to help our children.
I think Ray needs to unmute.
Ray, you're muted.
Here I am talking away. Well, you guys lost out on a great story, but Rebecca, can you go ahead and share with us, please?
I was just thinking of that. I thank you for all of your comments, because I think that was what I grew up with. And being so close to Army veterans, there was always a sense of safety that having them there, and having Dan and my brother John and my relatives, and they came. We've always had a number of veterans that have come to our home, and they got a little bit upset with me, but I told them, I said, I'm probably in the safest home on the reservation because there's 6 of you here. And there was always somebody up, and they would be up walking around through the house or walking outside, and being naive, I didn't know what that was, but they were walking a perimeter in order to keep us safe. And I find with my family members, especially with my husband and my brother, that they have a sense of obligation and duty to the community and to the people, and that they always are there to look out after others. And for my brother, I remember getting a call from him from Iraq, which was really, to me, strange. But he would call, and he was a combat medic, but he was in the middle of the war zone, and he would call. And we were interested in how he was. Are you okay? Is everything doing all right? Do you need anything and stuff? And he would say, I'm fine. Just talk about what's going on. How are you? How are the kids? What are you doing? Talk about normal stuff with me. And so we would, and after he got back, he said that always gave him a sense of peace. And he happened to be deployed with a number of Blackfeet, other Blackfeet, and then a guy from Crow. And they kept them together, kind of together for some reason. He said they were able to come together at different times at the base where he was stationed. And he said they would give him all the food stuff that was sent to him from family. And he said we would get together and he said, and we would cook.
Mm.
And we would just sit quietly all together. And he said, and we would kind of visit, he said, and people would say, you guys don't seem to talk. You just sit and you quietly eat and you listen to music. And he said, we were having a good time, he said, because we were together.
Mm.
And we were connected and stuff. And so I still find that with him and with my husband and other veterans, that they always look out after others. And my brother still comes out and says, are you guys doing okay? You know, what's going on, and checks on us. And so I think that's one of the most positive experiences that I've seen, and the strength and resiliency that they built as young men, and how that fed into what we were taught traditionally grown up. It just strengthened that for them. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for sharing that with us and honoring us with your words. Chelsea, can you share your story with us, please?
Yeah. So I guess some of my positive experiences growing up with Native veterans, I just think about, you know, like I said, I was born into the military when that was all I knew for a very long time. So my experiences were things like I got to travel, and that's not something that I really realized until I was older, that that's not something a bunch of kids get to do. You know, I was born in Hawaii, I lived in Japan, I've been to Tennessee and Washington, and I have a lot of just experiences overseas. Something that I think kind of sticks out with that is growing up and traveling to all these places. I was able to get a lot of exposure to different kinds of cultures. And not only just like the culture of where I was, but also military culture in general, because, you know, those military has its own culture. And I also had thought about just, you know, in general, having so many stories to be able to share, because I've had those experiences. You know, I wouldn't have a lot of these stories that like I wouldn't have a story about seeing rice pounding in Japan when I was at a festival long ago, or I wouldn't have stories about watching fireworks in Tennessee with like looking out for snakes and everything because we were by the water. You know, I wouldn't have those kinds of stories because I was able to live in all these different places.
Hey, Ray, can I jump in here real quick?
Sure.
So there's one of the things that when, you know, Chelsea mentions that military culture, it's very interesting to watch the children on a military base at the playground. Because on the base, you know, they play colors in the morning and they play evening colors in the afternoon. And when the kids are all out on the playground and colors sounds, all the kids stop playing. Everything comes to a halt and they all face the music and put their hand over their heart, you know, and that's just something about that military culture. Yeah, you don't see that in any other, at any other playground anywhere except on a military base. So I was, you know, so it's very interesting to watch. Yeah.
And that's something that is still kind of it's something that's still ingrained in me today. I live pretty close to a military base from where my house is, and I can hear colors sometimes. when I do, and I'll open the door and just like remind my roommates and everybody, and it's like, hey, you got to be still. We have to face the music. Hand over your heart, and all that. Like I still do that. It's just it just feels right.
Cool. Thank you for that. It is an interesting kind of experience you've had, Chelsea, especially with two parents that were in service at the same time. Very unique. Otto, Lucy, if you're still here with us, can you talk about your positive experiences with living with a veteran?
Ray, hang on a second.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Running between offices. Okay. The question is the positive experience living with a veteran.
What have been your positive experiences as a family member of a Native veteran?
Okay. I think some of the things that I take note on was just his view on how to handle certain situations, and not only was this is specific to my to living with a veteran. How my husband, I guess, helped me be more of a take focus on certain things instead of being over dramatic about stuff. Helped me grow up, I guess, as we when we got married. But I also have veterans in my family, my oldest brother and my two of my brothers who are veterans as well. And I remember being when one of my older brother, who is I think a year older than I am, when he went off and joined the Navy, I was feeling proud, and I looked forward to seeing him. When we found out that he was coming home, we would all get ready, and my mom would take out all, I guess, her good dishes and stuff on the table when he came home. And he would always, and I struggled, like I said, in school. So when he found out that I was at one point kicked out of school, I remember him sitting me down and talking to me, as opposed to my older brothers who just, how would I say it? The Navajo would be, it just, they weren't very kind to me. But with him, he would remind me that, do you want to live like this? And don't you have dreams, blah, blah, blah. And I guess he was just a little bit more structure and stuff that he wanted to share with me. And he knew my interest. He knew my interest in, because we didn't have much. So I wanted a little cassette player. And I remember him promising me that that's what he would get me if I would, get back into school and bring up my grades, which I did. So I'm forever grateful that he really emphasized the importance of. So I just think, having veterans in our home and then being married to one, it seems like it helped me be more maybe goal oriented and making sure that we followed through with things that we said we would do. And sometimes that structure mindset, it can be a little bit overwhelming. I guess it can be positive, but for me, sometimes with Rob, I'm like, I don't even want to do laundry with him. He just has this mindset that, a certain fold has to be, and then in the order that he wants. the laundry in. So I usually let him just take the laundry in and have a blast with it himself. And I'll step back and let him do that. But other than that, I think some of the positive takeaways from having veterans, of course, one is that we were quite proud that, you know, they served. And I know my dad has always, for I don't even remember how long, for years on end, would put up a flag in front of our house, his house, and he had put in a flag post there, and every holiday or any knowledge of veterans, he would raise a flag there, and he's hosted numbers of ceremonies, and of course the Native American church as well. So that was always one of the things that he did, my dad, to make sure. I think it was for him maybe a sense of security, knowing that prayers are sent to make sure his sons return home safely, and so that's what I remember, and I always think it's something that I think we carry on some of those teachings, to resort to the prayers, whether it's traditional or NAC. Sometimes even my kids do that. They when we get news from back home or any relatives, sometimes they'll call on us and say, you know, so-and-so is not feeling well, or so-and-so's in the hospital. Can you guys keep them in prayer? So a few times, I think when Rob was on travel, or I was home with the kids, and and I witnessed two of my sons taking out charcoal out of the fireplace and the wood stove, and cedering and saying a prayer, and that was pretty special to me, thinking that this is something that we want them to have. So I'm sorry, but just I think so I'm just really grateful that Rob shares that with me, the wish and the respect to keep our traditional ways intact, and to try to pass that on, to our kids. And we do our best. I mean, it's not easy, and I know we kind of did wrong by not teaching them the Navajo language at a young age. And luckily, like our oldest daughter, she's been taking it upon herself to learn more, and we support and help her along the way. And so she was able to take on a huge, I guess, endeavor on her own part. I try not to push them and hope, and just provide the support. So she learned the Hajonje songs, and was able to be allowed to sing on Canada. So she does that, and I'm quite proud of that. And our oldest son, is also in a field where he's trying to learn how to speak Navajo, saying that he wished he learned. He wishes that he would be a little bit more fluent, because he's out in the field. Sometimes he has to communicate with some of the older folks, and so we're doing our best in that part. But yeah, just being able to, I think, being married to a veteran who kind of has that mindset that he has to follow through with, things that he puts his mind to. So when he came back after college, he decided to learn the enemy way ceremony, and so now he's, I guess, carrying that on and helping our people when they're in need. And then he shares a lot of the twin warrior stories that's connected to the ceremony with our kids. We try to integrate that into some of the things that we talk about within our home, and how we need to keep that teaching going, and how what do you call it? I want to say not yet, but like the enemy's out. We're talking about like the poverty, the sickness, and things like that. And I always go back to Rob, asking them, what was this and what was that? Sometimes it'll help me, I guess, refresh my memory on some of that. So, right now, that's the only thing I could think of right now. I'm sorry,
Okay. Jean Lucy, thank you for your story. And like you said, it's been an honor and a blessing to join your daughter a couple of times as she does her ceremonies. And she's learned well from your husband and your mentors. So yeah, thank you. Denise, can you share with us your story?
Okay, I just want to emphasize what Chelsea has said. The positive experience, I think it's wonderful to see the influence that the military life has had on my nieces and my nephew. They've gone on to do great and wonderful things in their life. And I think my other nieces and nephews kind of look up to them. And then also just, my brother, Dave, also look up to him as well. But, thinking about my own experience, though, with my dad, I know my dad, he didn't talk a lot about his experience in the military, but I know that it really influenced him as far as fairness and acceptance of everyone, being fair towards everybody and accepting of everyone, because it was during a time of a lot of racial tension, racial strife back in the 50s. My dad talked just one time about his experience as a guardsman, National Guard, and having to go to Arkansas during the times of segregation when African American children were finally allowed to integrate and go to school, and they had to guard them. They had to create some safety for them to go, and he actually heard this. He actually heard the the way they were spoken to by other people and the way they were not accepted. And it was very ugly right here in our own country. And so he always talked about just accepting people, being respectful of who they are, what kind of culture they came from, no matter what, we're all the same, he would say. We all are human beings and we have to respect one another. So and then also, he kind of the older ones of the six of us, me and my brother and probably my middle sister Darlene, we kind of experienced this. But my dad, there was a lot of structure where he was kind of like a drill sergeant, where he would come and, if we made a mess or something, he would tell us, you guys have 5 minutes to get this place according to Hoyle. So we'd jump up and we'd start cleaning and it wasn't, we did it. And to this day, we are very, we all try to follow through and, make sure that we have things in place and we just follow through on things. Like I can't have, if I have one dirty dish in the sink, kind of drives me crazy. So I'll wash it, and, or I can't handle an unmade bed. That's the first thing I do is, in the morning, make the beds. Even when we stay in hotels, the maids get a break because we get up and make the beds, have the kids make the beds. So I'm just saying that, that's a positive influence, that structure, that follow through. And I really appreciate that. influence in my life. So
Yeah. Yeah. What a very good example of how life can be with veterans. Sometimes I can understand that. We've also been blessed to have a sixth panelist join us, Shirley Couchy from Alaska. I mentioned her name earlier. Shirley, can you unmute and turn on your camera so we can see you? Jeff, too, if you're there, Jeff.
Good morning. I'm trying to get my camera back on.
Uh-oh. Well, that's okay. What you can do, Shirley, is do a brief introduction of yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, okay? Then we'll get into the question.
Yeah, I'll turn the camera on when Jeff comes in. He had to bring the trash out. It's trash day today, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I don't use this kind of
Device.
yeah, for my meetings. So
Okay.
my name is Shirley Couchy and I am 46 years old. I'm about to be 47 on the 13th in a few days. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm originally from a village on the lower Yukon, mountain village, and my husband is Jeff Couchy. He is Inupiaq Eskimo and I am Yupik Eskimo. We have 3 kids. All of them, 2 of them are graduating. We adopted a girl. 2 of them are graduating this year, and we have a sophomore son who's going to get his driver's license here in a couple days. So he just celebrated a 16th birthday. Yeah, but my husband, he's been in the military for 22 years before he retired. I am a licensed practical nurse. Yeah, we just military family, just grew up our kids with having the military background has been really positive for us. Yeah.
Shirley, can you share with us which village you're originally from?
I'm from Mountain Village. It's along the lower Yukon.
You from Yupik country, where are you?
Yes. I'm Yupik. Yeah. We're right along we're near St. Mary's. I don't know if you've been to St. Mary's. We're in the YK region.
Yeah, I've been to St. Mary's.
Yeah. So we're neighbors. We're neighbors to St. Mary's.
Yeah. You're related to Mike Williams, right?
No, we're from a different part. They're on the Kuskokwim River and I'm from the Yukon River.
Okay. Getting my bearings here. I've known the Couchies for a while, from the time I spent working in Alaska. So it's an honor to see you again, Shirley, and your husband's a real dear brother of mine, adopted brother. So thank you for joining us. The question we have, Shirley, is what have been your positive experiences as a family member of a Native veteran? Could you share with us?
The positives I think are we were able to move away from the village, and well, when I met Jeff I was already in college and he was in the military, and we were able to take our kids and move them like to here in Anchorage, and financially it was nice for us because he got paid while he was overseas, and we were financially stable, and I was able to stay home with the kids. That was a good part. And also there's not very many Native veterans from where we're from, so when you're in the military, for us it's an honor to you're really respected, and because there were so many people in the military here in Alaska that used to really look down on Native people because they used to say that they weren't smart enough to join or even pass the the basic tests that you need to get in there. So my husband's really he was senior, he would always look out for the Native Native boys that would want to join, and he would push them so hard to study for those tests and study for those basic tests that you have to get in. And I think it's just positive because it showed that my kids, their dad is, he cares for a lot of young people, and he's always, pushed our children to excel in education, because now my son, he is a senior in high school, and he's taking half senior and half college. So by the time he's out of high school this year, he's going to be, he's going to have his foot in the door with college credits already. So that's been a positive for us, is the education that my husband pushes for our Native people, or,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it's just, I'm just proud of him. He cares for all the veterans. He's got a good heart.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a family. When you're in the military, it's, you live on base, you leave the base, and it's like you go to a whole different world, because when you're a part of a military family, it's just, you're close, and
Mm.
I can't describe it. That's what I miss, and that's the positive things
Mm.
about the military.
Mm. Well, Guyana, for
Thank
sharing
you.
with us, Shirley. Also, the time you've given us. Guyana in Yupik is thank you. So I wanted to translate to everyone. And you said something that's really interesting, Shirley, and this leads to the poll question, Steve. And the poll question that Steve gave us earlier, as he posted here in chat, 82% of you guys, you all, said you are related to a veteran. 18% of you have said that you aren't related to a veteran. And I think, so what that means to me is that 80% of you can relate to the stories that we're hearing from our panelists around the kind of structure that veterans sometimes bring into lives of civilian family members, and really focused kind of approach that a lot of veterans have, but also a lot of the experiences of a brotherhood that veterans share. I think are three things that come up to mind. So 82% of you have probably seen that or noted that within your families and with your family members that are veterans. I wanted to acknowledge that from our poll. Dave, can you explain what you wrote?
What I just wrote in the chat.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So what she was talking about is the education part. Sometimes the military kids, they have to accommodate. And one of the things, like in today's time, they have the opportunity to do online classes, to accommodate transfers. So when I was transferring to the Fleet Reserve, we had it timed out. And one of the things that the military kids have to deal with is changing schools. There was a point where when I transferred into my last duty station, I went from Bureau of Naval Personnel at Millington, Tennessee, to sea school training in Little Creek, Virginia, and then I was to move on to Navy Band Northwest up in Washington. The kids would have had to change schools 3 times in 1 year. So, we had to make accommodations for that. So they were able to stay in Millington, Tennessee, while I went to go do my training on my own. And then we all moved up to Northwest. So then that was my last duty station. So I was preparing to retire, and I had, the way it timed out for our youngest daughter is that I was going to retire at the end of her junior year, which meant when we moved to Albuquerque, she would have had to change high schools and do her senior year in Albuquerque, and she did not want to do that. So she took it upon herself to do online courses and correspondence courses. And so she did her junior and senior year simultaneously, so she wouldn't have to transfer into a new high school just to do her senior year. And so that task of getting things done, you know, that's part of that, you know, and the kids see that can see that in their education, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so just having, and that was one of the things, you know, she didn't want to have to do. So, you know, she took it upon herself to complete both of those years at the same time. You know, the downside of it is she didn't get to graduate with any of her friends. She had to graduate with older kids, you know. But you know, she got to start college a year early, you know. So yeah, so that's just one of the things, you know, that the military kids have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your story and sharing that about your daughter and some of the experiences. I have to apologize. I accidentally stopped recording and had to turn it back on, so that's my bad. But Steve, you have a second survey question for us to look at, right?
Do you want me to do the second question for the panel?
No, the second survey question.
You want the second survey question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Now, I probably, that's not going to let me. It's not letting me. I've been told that there's 3 of us logged on to this account. That's what I've been told. So I am not able to even access that poll question. So
There's 4 of us. 4 of us logged in as co-hosts.
Yeah, it has something to do with our login under the Native Center for Behavioral Health. So I will let me work on that and see if maybe Cam or Allison can create that poll question on the fly, and we'll get that going.
Yeah. If it helps, take me off as a co-host, and because I'll still be on.
It's not that way. It's
Okay.
We're logged in. We're logged in under the same account. Through the CPH Zoom account. So let me troubleshoot this, and I'll see if we can't get that second polling question up. Before we conclude.
Meanwhile, let's go on to the second question for our panel.
There we go. That I can do. That I haven't broken. So let's see if I can advance that slide for you.
Yeah. So for our 6 panelists, we have 6 people who are on the panel, and we'd like to ask you the second question, and we'll go through the same order that we went. What have been your challenges as a family member of a Native veteran? I'd like to ask that. And Dave, can you ask your mom to begin this part of our discussion?
Yep, she's got her notebook right here.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, what I see of challenges we go through after our veterans come home, it's sad, but to say that for some reason, it's a lot of going into the alcohol addiction, drug addictions. And I think especially those that have seen actual war, that they have hard times after they get home. Because I had my brother that was in the Korean War that got hurt. He came home thinking that, well, he's back with our family, our native ways, our traditional talk and stuff that would have been really great for him. But we experienced him by having a lot of flashbacks, anxiety, and getting into fights. But it's not only him, but I see a lot that families that go through that. And it really is a sad situation for them. It's hard to see them go through these things. So that's what I saw of one of my family members go through. And I don't know, we try everything to hopefully get them to feel good and help them. But I think it takes more, that they need to have help. Thank you.
And am I next?
Did we lose Ray?
Yeah, I don't see him.
Yes, Rebecca, let's same question with you. I don't know what happened to Ray there. So yes, let's go with Rebecca. Same question.
Okay, I hope we find him.
I know. I'm sending a search party out now.
Okay. This is an interesting question, because I think after all these years and living through all of this with family members, I've never had to put it into words. And so that's kind of challenging. But I do agree with issues with alcohol and drug addictions, that those that are family, we don't know what to do to help and how to help our family members. And I think in our household, it's been with the PTSD symptoms and the anniversary dates, that I don't know what happened. I don't know. He doesn't talk about those things. I do know that October and April are difficult months for him, and that he doesn't have a night without horrible dreams. And our kids have grown up not being able to run up to him and wake him up. And so even after all these years, our kids have stand away from the couch. He sleeps on the couch because he needs to have the TV on for background noise. And I can't stand, I want to have quiet when I sleep. So I think we talked about this before, where I was talking with some of my cousins. We were all gathered at the hospital for my uncle who was really sick. But all of our spouses are Vietnam vets. And we got to talking about what it was like to live with a Vietnam vet. And we also talked about how they sleep in different rooms, or Dan sleeps on the couch. And so for the 30 years of our marriage, he slept on the couch because of his difficult dreams. And they have to be horrible, because I don't know if he wants me saying this or not, but he screams. I can hear him screaming. And I don't know what the screaming is for. And he doesn't talk about it. But my younger brother has those issues too. And so being a family member, it hurts, because you don't know what to do and you don't know how to help them. You just try and adjust to helping. And one of the interesting things is our grandson, who was two, for some reason, he could always run up to his grandpa when he was sleeping. And it was almost like something inside Dan knew that it was a baby. It was a baby, because he would wake up, he would jerk and wake up, but he would never lash out at our grandson. And so I've talked with my brother, I've talked with Dan, I've asked them different things that we could do to help. And don't get much of a response back. So we've just learned to live with it. And I feel badly because after 30 years old, I still don't know what to do to help. And so I think those are some of the challenges that we face. Getting to, when he gets together with other veterans, he's, I don't know, almost like he's at home because he can talk about different things that he can't talk with the rest of us. When they have ceremony for the veterans, it's almost a relief for them, I think, because they can go into ceremony, and that's something that the rest of us don't understand. For my female relatives, their challenges have been having families and having to cope with the same issues because they've been in combat, and how to do that and to still raise families, and they struggle. So we see a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and we do what we can to help them through those difficult things. So I think those are some of the challenges that I've seen. Thank you.
Opala, thank you for your story, Chelsea. Or Rebecca, I'm sorry.
Ray,
Chelsea.
we do have the poll question ready if you'd like. We do have that prepared now. If we want to try that before Chelsea shares, we do have.
Let's finish the panel and go into the.
Sounds
Chelsea,
great.
can you share with us some of the challenges that you've experienced as a family member?
Yeah. So I mean, I talked about how one of the positives for myself was travel, but with that also comes its challenges. You know, I don't get to have those memories of growing up with the same people from kindergarten, like a lot of other people get to. Or one thing I wrote down that I think is kind of funny to think about now is, you know, 15 years ago, when we ended up stationed somewhere else, you know, it cost money to make long distance phone calls. And I wasn't allowed to make those phone calls until the bill came. And then my parents found out that I made those phone calls without permission to talk to my friends that I was missing. So nowadays, I think it's a little easier with the technology. You know, we have these Zoom calls and FaceTime, and almost every kid you can talk to has a cell phone. But that just wasn't something that I had growing up. So it was a pretty big challenge for myself. Also, I had talked about how one of the positives being exposed to so many different cultures. I also ended up with a lot of like culture shock going from place to place. So like you end up learning, you know, ways to show respect in Japan is very different than showing ways to show respect in Tennessee. My sister reminded me of a story when we first moved to Tennessee. We would get in trouble at school for not saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. Like we would just get a stern talking to and get in trouble from our teachers because it just wasn't in our vocabulary yet. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit, something that Lucy had said earlier, just I wasn't really exposed to my culture, native culture. Like my dad, we were talking about this last night, how he would try to, you know, just pass what he knew. But he also wasn't really around as much because, you know, he had to be deployed, and we didn't just get to see him every day. So I grew up understanding that my traditional dress meant something, but I didn't really fully understand the significance because it just wasn't something that I saw from my day to day.
Mhm.
And excuse me. But one thing I do want to say about that is because it's not something that I ended up growing up with and seeing every day, it's something that I've had to kind of put on myself. It's a responsibility that I've put on myself to learn and discover on my own, asking family. I didn't get to live near the reservation for a long time until I went to college, where I was 5 hours away. So I ended up seeing some of the first dances and feasts after I was in college, and it was a very significant experience for me. And so I feel like because I didn't really grow up with it, it means something different to me now. And I'm kind of dipping into the next question here a little bit, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about with moving from all of these different places. I learned so much cultural acceptance. I also had to learn that with other people there is cultural ignorance. When I was in middle school, high school, I started getting bullied for the first time for being Native, because I just wasn't around a lot of people that I could, I guess, have that community with. And one story in particular that's still kind of like hard to talk about is you know how in middle school, high school, or just at school, you have like spirit weeks where you'll like dress up differently every day. There's a theme or something every day. I remember this happened twice, once in middle school and once in high school, and it was the same person. We had an animal day, and there was this girl in my class who dressed up as a savage, dressing up in like really tattered, dirty clothes, feather in her hair. And it was really hard to see. And I remember at that time too was when I started getting really righteous about being Native. So I was doing like presentations at elementary schools and to my classes about what it meant for me. I remember I would join the media club, and I did a presentation segment on the Pueblo Revolt, just to kind of get that information out there. So it was just one of those things where I had to take it upon myself to kind of share my experiences, share my culture. And at the time, the best way I knew how. And with that, I had to, do my own research, ask my family, everything. So it was just one of those, it's one of those things that pushed me to kind of be more knowledgeable about who I am. So still hard to talk about sometimes, still gets that feeling in my stomach, but it's one of those things that I had to deal with growing up.
I'm really happy that you've been able to join our panel, Chelsea. You added such a rich part to our session here, being a daughter of a veteran. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Lucy, Nisha, what have been some of the challenges you've experienced?
Hey, Jay, I think she's having technical difficulties. If you can pass on.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to our next panelist, who is Denise. Denise, can you share with us some of the challenges you've had?
Okay. Well, I think the challenges came mostly when, not now, that my brother and his family are veterans. And I say that in the scope of the entire family having served, because I can remember one time my mother and I visiting with Mary Toya at Mesita Village at the Pueblo of Laguna, Mary Toya. If you don't know her, she's the mother of Deb Holland. And she asked us one time, she told us that Deb asked her, are you disappointed in any of us, Mom, that we never went into the military? And Mary said, no, I'm not, because you did serve. When you are our children living with us at whatever duty station we are, you're serving as well. So, I see all of my brother's family as having served their time in the military. But I think the biggest challenge comes when and during active duty time when you're separated from them. And because every time a new baby is born, the family gathers, and you all want to see the new baby, and there's the naming, you want to give them an Indian name and see who they look like, and and my brother had a new child, they were born in Hawaii and in Japan. And so we didn't get to see them right away until they were older. We just imagined what they looked like and, send pictures back and forth. But I can remember my dad being, he had health problems. He was experiencing some health problems, and he was holding a picture of my nephew, Kai, Dave's youngest son. And he said, I'm probably never going to get to meet this guy. And we said, no, don't say that, well, he's going to come, they're going to come sometime, and he didn't ever get to meet him. My dad passed before, Kai and before Dave's family got to come back. Actually, he was able to come for my dad's funeral. But I think that's the biggest challenge, is for families, is not being able to, when they're in active duty, the separation, not being able to see them right away. And eventually you do, and you're so pleased, and you're just so happy and so proud of who they are and what they've done and their service to our country. So, my many heartfelt thanks to my brother and his family, and to all the veterans, all the people who have served and have had to have their families live outside of our country. When Dave was here, duty stationed in the United States, that was great, because I made an effort to get my mom to every place he was stationed at. She even went to Hawaii. I had another sister that took her to Hawaii. But she got to we went to Tennessee several times, and really I would tease her and say, you're just going over there because you want to go to Graceland. So you want to see Elvis's house, and then you can visit your son. But it was just time. I'm probably getting into the next question. How do you address these challenges? You visit as much as you can. You just reach out and communicate as much as you can. And I'm sorry I got a little emotional there, but that's just it's just who I am.
Hey, Ray, Lucy's back on.
Okay. You know what, Denise, emotions are a huge part of being related to veterans. And I want to acknowledge that, because I think we veterans feel that, but because of sometimes how we are, who we are, we don't quite get in touch with that. So part of healing that many of our brothers and sisters who've had military time go through. So thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Lucy's back with us. Lucy, Nisha, tell us about some of the challenges you've had as a family member to Native veterans, and not just Robert. You muted, Lucy.
If she's on her phone, Lucy, if you can hear me, try *6 unmute your phone, *6.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hello?
Oh,
We
Okay.
got you.
Okay. Oh gosh, these phones. Okay, the challenges. I think like I mentioned, I have older brothers who are in the military, and then I who had been in the military. And then I have nieces who are also in the military currently. And with my brothers, I do recall, especially Al, my brother, who I felt closest to because we grew up together. And I recall having him not only pick on me when we were growing up, but sharing some laughs and things at home that I think I truly missed when he went, when he had to go off. And I didn't know, of course, at the time there was no cell phones, and we lived in a home where we didn't have electricity or indoor plumbing, so we didn't have access to phones. And I cannot remember if he wrote any letters. If he did, I don't know if my mom and dad got them because I never seen anything. And of course, my mom and dad don't read, so they would give the mail to maybe my older siblings. So those were some of the challenges. And as and he was one that just kind of a part of me thought he wanted to be home, but I think when he did come home, I don't know how to say it. I'm lost for words right now, but he just didn't feel at home, I guess, restless maybe. So he went off and continued to pursue work and other things away from home. So from then on, I feel like I guess we drift apart. We feeling in my mind thinking that I had a close relationship with this brother, and then we drift apart. So, and I guess to this day, we don't have. I don't know. We don't have that closeness. I never felt that again. So, and he has his own family, and I haven't seen him in a while. So that's and hopefully he'll visit home, at least visit my parents. But with Rob, I think initially one of the huge challenge that I recall is when we first got married, he really struggled with alcoholism. And I knew, because I seen my brothers and my dad struggle with that. And no matter how much we begged them and tried to tell them how much we love them, or if you love us, stop this, but they never did. I knew those tactics don't work. So it's not something that I ever asked him. I just figured if he, the one thing I did say was I didn't want to live like that. And so we, I just, I think our our love for family and our mindset to build a family may have been pretty strong to help pull him back to that reality that, and I think we both grew up in a home where there was alcoholism. And I do remember him, and still today he'll say that he knew that when if he ever became a parent, that he never wanted his children to grow up in a home like how he grew up in a home with a parents that had alcoholism. So we through that, when we first learned of our daughter being born, he always says that saved him. Oh, and I knew at some point that he had to make that decision, that I couldn't do that for him. He had to make the decision to not resort to drinking anymore. And so I'm grateful and just I'm just forever grateful that that's the choice he made, that he doesn't want our kids to grow up in that setting, and he chose not to do that anymore. And sought help, and he and I don't know if that's what led him to start following the head coffee around, to Henry, who he learned the ceremony from. And I don't know if that's what helped help him stay away from there, but I'm sure it wasn't an easy process for him. And the other minor stuff is just him sometimes can be pretty strict and stern, and there are times that because I think my dad was not a military man, but he was considered strict, but I don't think not in a way that my siblings were familiar with how Rob is and how he might interpret certain things. And my siblings would say, how can he be married to someone that's so mean and that doesn't even greet his children correctly or something like that, and say certain things. And to him, it was more of in a joking way that was interpreted different. So I don't know how to explain that, but yeah. But I've learned to understand what he was saying and what he was trying to say. But yeah, I think that was, to me, that was the biggest challenge. And at the beginning of our marriage, of course, for me, I had always just I chose to do the silent treatment or try to walk away, but he taught me different. He wanted to make sure we talked things out and never went to bed trying to just give him the silent treatment. That never worked. So, and then some of the teachings that were said to us at our wedding, those long lectures that you get at those traditional weddings, sometimes those were reiterated to me from my sister and my dad. And so I had to just learn to grow up.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucy, for sharing. And I think I think it seems like you touch on some of the challenges in relationships with veterans, is the distancing and my mom used to say, your words are really harsh, your words are really direct. She would say. And so I've learned over time just to keep my mouth shut. And I think that happens with a lot of vets. Learn not to talk so much, try to keep the peace and just keep distancing. So thank you for your story. Shirley, can you share with us what the challenges you've had?
For me, the biggest challenge, I think, being married to a native vet is the distance that we have to live with for, like I'm from the village, and when Jeff was going to Iraq, we had to make life easier, we moved to the city, and that was my very first time being in a really big city. I went from, leaving my job that I loved with YK to coming over here, starting a whole life that, just myself and my 2-year-old son had to, navigate our way and learn a life that we've never, we never lived in that big city with, Anchorage is small compared to a lot of the cities in the United States, but 500,000-600,000 people to us, coming from Bethel, where it's, everyone there. It was really hard for us. I had to learn to drive around, and I did that, because we came here and Jeff left within the month. He left us, and so I had a really good support system. I had my family, my parents came over and stayed with me. If it wasn't for them, I would have been so lost. But all the time away from my husband, even when we lived in Bethel, he'd go and travel all the time, and those were the most challenging times for us as a family. Was the times that he would have to be away on training, because he'd have to go, like, come here to Anchorage every month and be gone for weeks at a time. And just moving around. And when we lived on base, it was challenging because a lot of people would want to go and visit me, but they didn't want to go and get the pass or go on. It was kind of, what is it? Intimidating to go to, Army base, and, when you're not used to that, so we didn't get a lot of visitors. It was lonely when Jeff was gone. Those are the biggest challenges that we faced. Not being able to go home as much. When he's another challenging one for us is he suffers from hearing loss from the all the shooting that he had to do in his training, and so he suffers from that, and it's a challenge. The physical, he had to have brain surgery, and just coming from a really, when we couldn't understand it, we didn't understand his behavior when he came home from Iraq. Like, my son ran in the room and he turned on the light and said, "Daddy," and he jumped out of bed, and it was, we didn't know what to expect when he first came home. And he has trouble sleeping between like October and all the way until like December. Just like you, he expresses himself through silence. And, sometimes people think silence is, a peace. It brings peace, and which in our culture it does. Because, my dad and mom used to say, if you talk too much, you just cause more trouble. So my dad will always get silent. And but yeah, the biggest challenge for us was the distance and the time away from home that we had to experience.
Liana, Shirley,
Thank you.
for sharing with us your experiences as a wife and relative to my brother, Jeff. I've learned him to be a real kind, thoughtful man in the years that I've known him, as well as all the other veterans that are here with us today. I have a profound respect for all of you, Robert and Dave, and those of you that we've, Dan as well. So thank you for your time. What we're going to do, we have about 7 minutes left for our session, and Steve is sharing with us the second poll that we did. How many veterans do you have in your family currently? Gosh, there's 68% of us here who have 1 to 3 family members that are veterans. Probably included in this are active duty relatives. And from there, it gets a little more consistent, around 9%, 9%. Another 9% having 3 to 12 family members as veterans. And that's not surprising too, considering that among native country, we have the highest proportion of our people who joined the military. So close to 18% of Native Americans joined the military. And that's compared to 13% for other populations. So we're highly, highly represented in the armed forces. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing the strong reputation, the strong of a representation among our families that are veterans or family oriented. Also want to mention that we have a post-event survey that's shown there for you to link us into and to link into to do this. So what we're going to do right now is see if there are people in the audience who have questions or thoughts from the sharing that our panelists have done. So we're going to open the floor. I guess you could say we really don't have a floor. We're going to open the webinar to everyone to share other thoughts that you might have and responses. So just unmute and share. Or raise your hand. For the panelists, are there any other additional thoughts or words that you feel like you want to share with us?
I wanted to share something else.
Okay.
So I was talking to my sister. We came home for Christmas this year, but about a month beforehand, I was talking to my sister about coming home, and this was the first time in a long time that all 5 of us had been under the same roof. And when I was talking to my sister, we were talking about how when we were growing up, being in the military, we were really all each other had. So I think that with that, we were able to grow some really strong bonds between my immediate family. We have a certain kind of closeness that, like I said, I didn't get to grow up with those friends from kindergarten, but I did get to grow up with my siblings and my parents, and those are the people that I had every day in my life. So I think that with my experiences as a military child, I'm really proud to say that I am a military child. I love to tell people that my mom was a Marine, my dad was Navy, and I don't think I would ever change or trade that for really anything. And I also wanted to say thank you so much for having me today.
Well, you've really, like I said earlier, blessed us with your time and stories. Anyone else, any of the other panelists would like to have closing remarks? Dan, you have any words? Dan Foster, you have any words for us?
Blessings, everyone. Stay well. Thank you, Ray.
Michelle Mitchum, would you like to unmute and tell us a little bit more about what you put in chat?
Hi. I wrote in the chat that my son, he was involved in missile strikes. I think it was in 2016 missile strikes in Syria. And he was part of the Marine Expeditionary Unit that went in to that airfield. And he never talked about it until last week. And it happened, the discussion came from watching Maverick, the new Maverick movie, Top Gun movie. But when that was his first deployment, and he never talked about it until last week, but even when he came back from that deployment, he has consistently seemed disconnected. And I wrote emotionally lost. He drank heavily, still has nightmares. How do y'all, from the family perspective, and I heard someone else talking about, so you just kind of walk away from it. That doesn't help, because then they feel you don't care. So what is the best way to deal from a family perspective, to deal with someone who's struggling with what we didn't see? I don't know what happened. And he's since gotten out. He's a diver now. I told him he would have been safer in the Marines, but he still struggles with that. He in talking to him, he has made comments that go into the VA, it shows weakness. I keep saying it's not, it's a strength. So it just from the family's perspective, we run into the same problem. We don't know what to do. We try different things. What works? What actually does work?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. And I'm gonna share that behind me, on top of me, I guess you see number 988. I've been a really strong proponent of the new National Crisis Line. Veterans have a lot of really good access to support through 988 system that's set up right now. Veterans can dial 988 and hit 1 after the prompt and get to a support person, a counselor or therapist who is oriented towards working with, talking with, and supporting veterans. That's step 1. As a way to get some help and have someone to speak to. A lot of the people that are in the 988 system on the veteran side are veterans themselves. So I want to put that out as a resource. The second thing is what you've heard from the panelists, is being consistently supportive and being as understanding as we can possibly be, and giving space, room, and time for the healing to happen, which will take a lifetime. Veterans healing from trauma doesn't happen in a short period, especially those that are traumatized through combat experience. It's a lifelong process. And bless you for sharing us your story, Michelle. And if you wish to connect with us later on after the webinar, feel free to do that. And we can have more dialogue about this.
Can I add something?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I add something? Okay. The other thing, Michelle, is that even they don't need to specifically go to a therapist or anyone that's in the VA if they don't want to, but the VA has connections with other therapists in their area that they can go to and connect with, so they don't have to have that VA stigma or whatever, but the these therapists are connected with them and are certainly welcome to provide help, so that they don't need to feel like they're out there all by themselves. And that's
Mhm.
really important.
Mhm. Mhm.
Also
Thank you, Dr.
connecting with veterans organizations will help too, because you know, it's vet to vet. You know,
Mhm.
a vet talking to another vet is creates, you know, it alleviates a lot of the issues, you know, that you can share
Mhm.
your story with, you know,
Mhm.
not feel like, you know, you're, if you don't want to see a counselor, I think, you know,
Mhm.
vets can counsel each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Yes, Ray, and everyone else, if you don't mind, you know, it's you know, what I found very effective is being in contact with another veteran. Is, you know, it goes a long ways for the veteran.
Mhm.
You know, whether a veteran knows another veteran or a friend,
Mhm.
you know, contacting, you know, calling by cell phone, you know, saying, hey, how you doing and what you've been up to, you know, something, a real simple contact by
Yeah.
phone is very effective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I, you know, it was I, you know, when I returned, it was, you know, I had to go through counseling sessions, but me as a veteran going through counseling and seeing a counselor, um you know, I was looking at the counselor and I was thinking, you know, I don't think they know what a combat zone is. And so, you know, in my mind, I thought, well, you know, hey, I'm just going to tell her I'm fine. I'm okay. You know, things are great. And, you know,
Mhm.
so that way I can just get out of there and, you know, not having to deal with somebody that
Mhm.
may have not understood what a combat zone was. So
Mhm.
over the years, you know, you know, I found and realized that contacting another veteran was very helpful and very effective.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
And Jeff, to just kind of bounce off of that, somehow my son has stayed in really close contact. A guy that he met in boot camp, they ended up at the
Mhm.
same base. They went on the same deployments. They were in the same unit, and they are still together now, working
Mhm.
dive jobs.
Mhm.
But it's almost like they share this bubble.
Yeah.
But like you said, like Jeff said, some people don't know what it looks like. And the comment that he made that really made me say, whoa, was when they bombed the airfield, he said it was in the middle of the night, and he said it was like the sun came out. It was so bright.
Mhm.
God said, let there be light, and there was light.
Mhm.
And the expression on his face was like, that wasn't a movie, that was the real deal. And it made me see things differently, but still, you know, as a mom, you want to protect your child, and in this, I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait.
Okay, can I put in my 2 cents here?
Go ahead, Trey.
So, you know, one of the things is probably, you know, traditional ceremonies. Whatever tribe you're in, you do have traditional ceremonies to address these issues. And ceremonies are really geared in most cases with the family involved in it to help them through not only what the veteran gone through, but what the family's going through. I am a very I have a long line of veterans from the 1868 to all the way to every war that's been fought by the U.S. My family's been involved, but from at least from the older Navajos that I have learned from, is one of the things that is they have always said is that, you know, being a veteran is good. I mean, it's an honor to be one, but it should not drive your life. Being a veteran, being in the military should not drive your life. You are far more important than being a veteran. You are children of the holy people. That's far more important than being a veteran. You know, you're worth more than just being a veteran. You're a human being. You're children of the holy people, and that's really what to recenter, at least in Navajo, to recenter what you really are. Yes, it's great to be Native American and being a veteran, but that should not drive your life. Our ceremonies, at least in Navajo, is to put you back on that life of being a good Navajo, being a good five-fingered human being, and being a good person. But sometimes those experiences do carry trauma. And our ceremonies, and I believe that Navajo, there are ceremonies that addresses these issues with every Native American tribe. So I would access what you have. Thank you.
Yeah, check. What a rich discussion we're having, and like my grandson Robert indicates, you know, this through prayers and blessings that we are grounded. Many of us are grounded and carry on our lives in the best way possible. So with that, I'm going to ask David's mom to close us out with a prayer, and so we can continue the rest of our day well. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Send the blessing.
Blessing. Oh. Dear Lord, I thank you for being here with us this day. I ask you to bless everyone, everywhere, wherever they may be. Help us to stay together, and bless the panel today that had discussions. It was really a family theme that we all go through. And we ask you to keep us safe, keep us from diseases, and everyone be safe, especially our vets here and afar. Protect them from danger. We ask you in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Everyone take care of yourselves this week, this weekend, and on into 2023. We got a whole year ahead of us. And thank you very much for each of you being with us for the last 2 hours and 10 minutes. So thank you. Any closing words, Steve?
So this concludes our 3-session series. We want to just thank everyone who joined us for all 3, 1 or 2, and look for other events in the future. And we look forward to seeing you then. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected. Thank you.
Yeah. Bless you all. Bye-bye, everyone. See you later.